Welcome back. You're watching Commodity Champions and I'm Manisha Gupta. Well, the government clearly has talked about or increased MSP, but we also have seen the Met Department maintaining its above normal monsoon forecast. The rainfall is likely to be at 106% of the long period average. The union government has announced a hike in Kharif crop prices as it plans procurement worth over 2 lakh crore rupees in this financial year. And in a bid to ensure price stability, government also has cut the import duty on edible oils. So what does it all mean for the agri economy with the kind of steps that the government has taken when it comes to edible oil, pulses and then wheat as well? To take this discussion forward, we are now joined by Bimal Kothari. He's chairman at the India Pulses and Grains Association. Mr. Kothari, hi, thank you so much for joining in. We have seen government do a lot when it comes to stabilizing the prices and ensuring enough availability as well. And as I was talking to you last time, we talked about on how the government has allowed duty-free yellow peas with the 7 extensions there, and an 8th one perhaps has come in as well. What does it really mean for India, for the industry, and what are the kind of imports that we are seeing in sense of yellow peas?
Thank you, Manisha ji, for inviting me to the show. As we discussed earlier also, in fact, yesterday only. So I mentioned that, and I would like to reiterate once again that this policy of importing yellow peas at zero duty, I think this is a very disappointing step for the not only for the industry. I think it is very disappointing for the farmers also, because you see, let me give you some background. You see, this yellow peas is it was prohibited for 5.5 years, and government didn't want to import the cheaper pulses because it was hurting the Indian farmers. And when they stopped this, that was the contention that the cheaper import is hurting the Indian farmers, and that is why we should not bring the cheaper import. So they stopped the complete import of yellow peas till December 23rd. And so in December, since we had a El Nino effect on our production of the pulses, so they allowed the import of yellow peas at zero duty. And I think that was the time we required it, because the price of pulses were going beyond, affordable level. So, and that was the right move. I think that I will appreciate the government's efforts on that. So, but when that initiative has been met, that situation has been met. Now we had a good monsoon last year, and also our production is quite satisfactory this year. We have seen the production of other pulses like tur and even lentils and even chana, and all the price of pulses. Not only one or two, but all the pulses are ruling below minimum support price. So I don't think we require now the cheaper pulses, because on one hand, the government of India is increasing the minimum support price. Recently, they announced that the minimum support price for tur and urad has been increased by 4.5 rupees. So tur's minimum support price is now for 40 rupees for this Kharif season, and urad's minimum support price is 78 rupees, whereas the moong price is around 88. So if you look at the price of the minimum support price of the pulses, they are around 80, 85, 80, 86. Whereas the yellow peas import is going to cost us around 32 rupees, because the new crop is going to start in Russia and Canada, and they have a very substantial amount of the crop. And India is the biggest market, because we should know that we have imported 3.2 million tons in just last 15 months. Right. And last year, our import was a record import.
That's exactly my point, Mr. Kothari. If we saw record imports last year, and with the way we're looking at cheaper imports continuing in this year as well, do you see numbers increase as compared to last year also?
If this policy continues, you see, India is the biggest market. The price will matter. Then the quantity doesn't matter. What we have just observed there was a GPC conference just a few days back in Singapore. And all the numbers what we have seen, whether it is in Australia, there is an increase of the production. They are expecting about 2 and 2.5 million tons of chana. The 40% increase in the lentils production. There is a substantial increase of yellow peas. In Russia, there is a good amount of crops in Canada. And Africa, normally it has been 700,000 tons of tur. Whereas this year we are expecting about 1 million ton. Then urad, Brazil is new origin. They are coming up with around 2 and 2.5 lakh tons of urad. Whereas in Myanmar also, the crop is very good this year. They have got about 1 million tons of stock. So if you look at the origins, the supply is in abundance, and definitely they have to look at the Indian market. As of now, as of today's policy, all the pulses are allowed into India for as far as the import is concerned,
Right.
and only on the lentils and chana there is a duty of 10%. Otherwise, all the pulses are at zero duty. This is going to, I'm telling you, this is going to harm the Indian farmers.
So would you
Because
also see prices going further decline from here? I mean, what are you anticipating? As you said, we are already trading at or below MSP. Do you see further decline? Do you see a threat of that?
Definitely, definitely. Let me tell you, for example, tur, pigeon peas, which we call pigeon peas, tur. So tur now is selling around, the African tur is around selling around 60 rupees. But they have a crop of about 1 million tons. They have to sell because India is the only market where this can be, exported. And India is the only country which imports tur. From whether from Africa or from Myanmar. These are the two origins which produce the tur. So entire production has to come into Indian market. Government has already procured about 6 lakh tons. Despite of that, the prices are below minimum support price for the local domestic crop. So now we are expecting this African tur to start arriving in the month of August. So I'm sure that the price will come down to by another 10 rupees. So if you look at the situation that tur is selling at 50 rupees, the imported tur, and whereas our minimum support price is 80 rupees. In the this year, as of now, the monsoon looks very good. We had a good spell of the monsoon, early monsoon in the month of May. So if this continues, and if we have good monsoon, if we have a good crop, we are going to see a crop of tur more than 4 million tons. Last year, as of trades figure, of course, the government figure was a little low. But as far the trades numbers are concerned, the crop is estimated at 4.2 million to 4.3 million tons, and which we can see on the ground because despite government buying 600,000 tons, the prices are below minimum support price. Still in the mandis like Karnataka and Solapur in Maharashtra, they are at the mill delivery, the prices are around 68 to 70 rupees. So you can see, whereas now the new minimum support price is 80 rupees. So if we are importing something at a price of 50 rupees, even less than that, and then government to buy at 80 rupees the entire crop, I think this
Not
looks
going
very
to happen.
contradictory, and also doesn't go by the fiscal prudence also. So I think the government needs to relook at this policy because this is not only going to hit the trade and industry, but it is also going to hit the Indian farmers, all the stakeholders who are in this business of the pulses.
I get your point, Mr. Kothari. And as you said, 2024 was record import of pulses. 2025 perhaps could be higher than that. And this is at a time when India is looking at a good crop and most of the global countries are growing pulses for India. So clearly a stage where we are looking at cheaper prices perhaps going ahead. And I take your point that it doesn't work well for the farmers or the industry as well. And how much of that is passed to consumers is yet another debate. But thank you so much for joining and making sense of what really is happening in the Indian pulses market there. Well, moving on from pulses, let's talk about wheat now. And we are looking at a bumper crop. The government procurement is on the higher side as well. But then what is ailing the industry is the stock limits, which have come in earlier and perhaps at a time where it was not needed. Joining me now is Mr. Ajay Goyal. He's chairman at Wheat Product Promotion Society. Mr. Goyal, thank you so much for joining in. What is the latest number that you would have in sense of government procurement as of today?
So we are almost at 30 million, I would say, and that's about it. I don't know whether we have touched that elusive number of 30 million, but we are something like 29.97 around there at the moment.
How would you react to the stock limits? I understand this time it's lesser period that was given to the trade and to the whole of value chain to ensure that you align with the limits now. Has much of that been done? Has it had its impact on prices?
So it's really unfortunate, in spite of the government declaring a bumper crop, one of the highest procurements, and overall the message being conveyed is there is sufficient wheat in the country. We are quite self-sufficient and there is no need of imports. So there are basically four players in the wheat market. There is the farmer, there is the trader, there's the miller, and of course there is the government itself through the Food Corporation of India. And on a farmer, there is no stock limit. He has the right to hold his produce and sell it whenever he desires. As for millers are concerned, they have a limit of almost 70% of their annual capacity. And of course, the government cannot be functioning with any sort of limits. So it is the trader who is actually servicing the SMEs, creating the supply chain logistics, the trade credit, the storage, and such a vast country where wheat is harvested and procured or made available in so many places. It's the trader who participates and keeps the grain for the rest of the year. And it is unfortunate that the government, in spite of having such a large crop and sufficient in its coffers, the government has been. We do not. I fail to understand the reasoning behind this stock limit, which is so measly at about 3,000 tons per trader at the start of the season. So probably the government doesn't know of something which either the trade and industry doesn't know, or it should disclose the reasoning.
Well, Mr. Goyal, would you say that all of last couple of years, the trade has been asking for import of wheat? So this is the time the government is ensuring that there's no import and there's enough wheat perhaps available. I want to take a leaf out of what you just said, that the farmer is exempted from stock limits. Would that I wouldn't say it's a loophole, but would you say farmers have perhaps the capacity to hold enough wheat?
Yes, why not? That has been visible in the past 2 years, especially in states like Uttar Pradesh, where you have seen arrivals almost all around the year. Of course, in MP, the price by the government was very lucrative, so I do not think anybody is holding it back, farmer. But Punjab and Haryana normally sells out. But this year, you see that there has been some retention by the farmer itself. And UP is a classic case where you have the farmer bringing in the produce almost all around the year.
Mr. Goyal, what's your sense also on the demand going forward and the prices therein?
So right now it's too early to make any specific call on demand. The demand of wheat products is normally, plus minus 10% round the year, more or less on similar lines, because this is one of the staple parts of the diet. But it is hoped that, demand will improve over time in the next few weeks, few months, because we normally see that the summer months are the low demand months. After that, it's quite a decent, robust demand.
You
And
haven't
as far
seen
as prices are concerned, I think right now, the next 2 or 3 months, I do not see any surge. And there is a big hope that the government is going to start its open market sales scheme early this year.
How are you also looking at the export part of it? Because, every time that the government has talked about a bumper crop or even stock limit for that matter, do you at all see a probability of wheat product export?
So I think most of them have given up hope, and it's better to forget it rather than keep clamoring for it, because the government has its own priorities, and all actions of the government so far indicate that the government is in no mood to relax any of the policies, and it wants to keep a strict control and eye on wheat and its prices.
How are you also looking at an overall crop estimate now, from USDA saying 117 to government saying 115? I mean, is there more clarity? This is a question I keep asking you, but the variance in industry numbers and the government is quite wide.
Yeah, so I think this year, everybody has posted a higher number, and it is somewhere about that, as I told you last time, about 4-5%, 3 to 5% higher than your last year's number. And we are definitely in a zone of 105 to 115 million tons.
Mr. Goyal, also going forward from here, what is it that you see government working on in sense of wheat there?
So I guess the next action of the government will be announcement of the OMSS scheme, and it is hopeful that by next month, that is July, the government will kick off the scheme for actual users and millers.
So you do not see the prices going higher in the next 2 to 3 months or forward, because as you said, the OMSS will start kicking in.
So I guess if the OMSS is not well distributed and the requirements of millers are not fulfilled, then definitely there will be a mismatch in supply, and you could see some surge in prices in certain pockets. The only thing would be if wheat is not made available through OMSS throughout the length and breadth of the country, especially where the mills are situated or the consumption is there, or if the allocation under the OMS is very measly to millers, then definitely you could see some spike in prices.
One final question, and this is on the overall demand and the consumption that we've seen in wheat over the years. And what's your sense on the pattern going forward?
I think consumption continues to grow along with population and more new products being introduced, and wheat has this beauty of being sold in a well preserved form, be it biscuits, cookies, pizza, so it has a good shelf life, good this. So it is at a very normal gradual 1 to 1.5% per annum. You can see price demand going up or consumption going up.
All right. Mr. Goyal, thank you so much for joining in and giving us all those details in sense of numbers and analysis as well. With that, it's time for a break, but don't go anywhere. The discussion continues when we return. On the other side, we'll talk about soybean space with Dian Pathak, who is ED at the Soybean Processor Association.